Hello and welcome to Some of My Friends Read Comics. We've got Vince.
Creatures who live in glass bottles shouldn't throw stones.
It's a good adage to live by. We got Chris.
Another day, another battle.
And we got what? We got another friend here. Who's it? We have Mike.
I got nothing.
Mike.
I was trying to flip a page
Mike
to see
does
if I
not
could.
know how the show. Okay, welcome,
He's not
Mike.
our
First off,
partner.
it's all
Oh, I
right.
got one. Another day, another battle from page 2. Does that count?
Wait a minute now. All right. Mike is breaking all the rules here. Mike is visiting us from the Games My Mom Found podcast. Tell us a little bit about your podcast over there, Mike.
We are mostly a retro video game podcast that covers movies and comics and just a lot of random stuff.
Great.
But every week
So-
we do dive into a different game, and then I try to sprinkle other things throughout the month where we'll cover usually at least one comic of like an arc, and then also do movies. Like we're doing the MCU, which is a task I did not think about when I started it almost 2 years ago.
There's a lot of stuff there these days. And how do you know us? How did you wander into this podcast? Like I got on to record, and then usually Vince is here, and usually Chris is here, and there's a fourth person here. How did this happen?
I ran into Vince over on the official Asia Time group. I don't even remember how we met exactly. I think I must have been trying to either pimp out my podcast or ask people about podcasts, and then we met early on or something.
Yeah,
don't remember
I may have
exactly.
given you some like advice or something. I know that you have like a listener segment, which we really should do, where you submit questions in and then you read from them. And I know I submitted quite a few in your early days of your episodes, just like participating and stuff. So, and I'll always give you like advice. Like I just gave you advice for like, hey, I think this like I would not be a good guest on this episode, but this other dude might be. So because they just covered Spider-Man PS1 on their show, and so they do a lot of adjacent stuff to us.
Well, thanks to you, I ended up talking to a guy named Blaze Farrell who runs a comic book website. I think it's comicbookvideogames.com.
Oh, shoot. That dude. Oh, I didn't realize that was the same dude. Yeah, that guy rules. I have his podcast too. Comics on Comics, I think is it? Comics on Console. Yeah, he's really good.
I should know because I just talked to the guy.
I'm thinking about Chris Clowie, but either way, yeah, that guy's good too.
I don't think, Blair Farrell doesn't have a podcast, but he's a real nice guy. And very, very knows his comic book stuff when it comes to video games.
We're gonna have
That's a fun game too. Good voice acting. Like probably the best Spider-Man game until Spider-Man like PS2, GameCube era.
Yeah, definitely.
I haven't played enough. I never played Spider-Man 2 for PS2 or GameCube yet, so I can one day.
That's
but
a
no,
wild
Spider-Man
game because they start like putting like Mysterio and other classic Marvel villains into like the Raimi like art design style. It's really weird.
Oh.
It's really cool.
Yeah, that Mysterio side quest is really fun. Those games hold up. But anyway, we're not here to talk about that game.
Oh yeah. We haven't even introduced the episode. Okay, we're talking about Super Metroid. Whoa. Did you know there was a Super Metroid comic? Whoa.
No.
Did you know that there's a new Metroid game coming out?
I'm dreading it.
I'm very excited for it. But no, we are reading some old Super Metroid comics that got printed in Nintendo Power. And then, of course, we're going to read Amazing Spider-Man number 11. Mike, did you read Amazing Spider-Man as well?
Unfortunately, yes, I did.
Oh, okay. Unfortunately, we are fans of the old Amazing Spider-Man. We're gonna have some hot takes coming up here, but let's get back to Super Metroid. We don't want to jump ahead of ourselves. This was in Nintendo Power 57 through 61, which would have been in the year.
Yeah, this would have been 1994.
That's exactly what I was
probably right
thinking.
around the release of the video game, maybe a month or two early, because my first issue was November 93, and that was issue 54, so that would probably be put it in February or March, if I'm not mistaken, the Bugs Bunny Rabbit Rampage issue, or I don't remember what March was now. But
I can't. I'm amazed that you remember even one.
That's my murderer's row. That's my suggestion why 1994 is the best year in video gaming. It they just based on the covers of Nintendo Power magazine, because it starts off with Mega Man X, Bugs Bunny Rabbit Rampage not as good, but then it is like Super Metroid, Kim Griffey Baseball, Donkey Kong 94, Mortal Kombat 2, Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, Illusion of Gaia.
Good game.
They're all great games, and then it's just a great year for video games. But Super Metroid.
And it was February 1994.
Rabbit Rampage.
You're right. I'm looking at it right now.
Nailed it.
It's well, very lucky that this is a video game crossover episode that we have Mike from. It's almost like we planned it. So this was. So this is like a 5-issue thing. It was like I said, 57 through 61, written by Benimaru Ito. For the wrestling fans out there, I don't believe there's any relation to Maki Ito, but I could be wrong. But Benimaru Ito, I think he wrote and drew all this, right? I think it's. We'll get to the final thoughts later, but it's not what I expected it to be at all. Should we just jump right into it? Any other preamble necessary?
Nintendo Power had a lot of comics. I mean, it's ostensibly a video game magazine, but it was more of a tips and tricks magazine where it had like walkthroughs. But then they published the Link to the Past comic, which they also published in a collected edition. I thought was pretty fantastic. I remember a Star Fox comic and a Blast Corps comic also, but those are the only ones I remember. And Super Metroid.
And then they would have like a 1-page Howard and Nestor comedy strip too.
Yeah. And I guess, we'll get a little bit of the recap here in the first episode, in the first issue here, but I guess in case anyone hasn't played Super Metroid or know anything about the series, she's like a bounty hunter, and she goes around and she gets trapped on a planet, and she has to explore like a real mazy kind of place and gain upgrades and go through it. There's no maps in this comic, unfortunately.
No. Well, and the second game, the first game, she kills a Metroid or multiple Metroids, and then the second game, she goes to the Metroid's home planet and murders them all except for a baby Metroid, and so she's so sad she's got to protect it, and that's what leads to Super Metroid.
Yeah. Well, and that I thought you were about to say that leads to the other M.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about that. So, are these comics meant to be before or after Super Metroid?
I feel like during, except like we'll get into it. It doesn't follow the plot of the comic at all, or the comic.
Oh, there's a lot of stuff that I didn't think was going to work. Yeah, because it also we'll get to it. We start with Samus, who's in bed, and she wakes up. She's having a dream. She's been fighting some baddies, whatever, and she wakes up and gives us a recap of all of her adventures, which is that the Galactic Federation asked her for help to fight off the Metroids. And she did. She went there and was like, fight. And then again, they found like the home planet of the Metroids. And they're like, oh, no, there's more. And so she went and fought them. And like you said, she found little hatchling Metroid who thought Samus was its mom. And so Samus brought it back to the scientists of the space colony. And there's an alarm. Oh, no, time to get up. Time to get moving.
But one thing also in there that really quick, like when you talk about how it does the Metroid 2, it actually has a little panel that even shows you the Omega Metroid that they drew on there.
Oh, wow.
From the end of that game.
I missed it because I don't think I remember what the end of the Metroid games look like, because I always like play them and I'm like, all right, I forgot where to go.
I'm
played Metroid 2, but
in Metroid 2, I'm definitely lost in that one.
Yeah.
Is that
Metroid
the yellow
2,
panel?
Yeah, I have no idea.
Mike, the Omega Metroid?
I've never played it. I just have watched YouTube videos of it, and I know that's what that's what they drew up was the Metroid from the end of that game. The Queen, I think is what it's called.
I never played Metroid 2 either because I didn't have a Game Boy.
Oh, I definitely played it, but it's really hard to know where you're going when all the maps look the same and it's all in black and white.
Metroid 1 I beat like 2 years ago, which I was very proud of myself because I had never beaten it. I played it as a kid and was completely confused.
Wow, that's pretty impressive.
It is a consummate dad game. Like it is a game that confounded children in the 80s.
Just play Metroid Zero.
Zero Mission is like the exact same game, but a remake. But it's also just like a game you can beat in 3 hours.
It tells you what to do.
It's so great. Yeah. It's so great.
Way better.
It's a weekend game. It's awesome.
Yep.
But we're still like pretty consistently like with the canon of the games through this first issue.
This all works for me.
I think Super Metroid starts with like actual voice on Super Nintendo, which is pretty crazy. And it's like the last Metroid is in captivity, and I'm like, hey, here it is. And then I'm in the game. Like, it doesn't start off, Kia. I think me and you played this back in 2007 when it came out on the Wii. It's like you're in the little like space station that's all like fucked up and just like dead. And then,
it's like a self-destruct thing, right?
And Ridley shows up. There's the big flying thing. I guess Ridley's in Super Smash Bros. Now, so people should know who Ridley is. But not Ridley Scott, not to be confused with Alien, because this has nothing to do with Alien. No alien babies like in Alien 3. This is completely different. But
also, Ridley's purple in the games, yet here he's red.
Ridley here looks more like humanoid than I've ever seen or ever thought of him in the video game, especially when he starts talking. But like in this first panel, so Samus shows up
Ridley's a
to the
pterodactyl.
lab.
I don't know if we said that.
Yeah, Ridley's like a pterodactyl thing, and it's like yelling at Samus and talking. I didn't expect Ridley to talk at all because in the games it just goes and that kind of stuff. And like Ridley activates the self-destruct in the science lab, which I don't know why that science lab has a self-destruct, but he does. And he activates it, he flies away, and he says, "Sayonara, Space Cadet, it's been a blast." Which, first off, I was shocked that Ridley was talking at all. I'm now shocked that he's using puns. And I'm like, okay, we don't know where we're going here anymore. This first issue is not what I expected.
Here we go again, and then she jumps down the shaft. Banzai!
It's like I was like, okay, this is what we're doing. All right. But yeah, it is similar to Super Metroid in that there's like a self-destruct and you got to get out of there. But I think after that, it's like, all right, things are probably gonna start to diverge a little bit.
Yeah, once they introduce a second character, it's like,
there's a second character.
Everybody's favorite Metroid character, Houston.
Never heard of this guy.
Couldn't they be more creative and like pick a name that isn't just a Texas city, like something?
No, well, they could call him Tex, Houston,
Grand Prairie. I'd like that. Call him
Dallas.
I wonder if there was this localized by somebody else? Like, was this written for a Japanese market and then localized and somebody else picked a name? I don't know.
He's a manga artist, Benimaru Ito. Right. I wonder if this originally was right to left and it was flipped for American audiences. I don't know.
That's very possible. Yeah.
And possibly not colorized also. But Houston, I mean, Dallas, you mentioned, Chris, isn't that an alien character? Because this comic really feels like a Dark Horse alien comic to me, like straight up.
It does. It really does. Yeah.
It's also a little strange, like to me, when I saw the other character, because like even in this comic, they mentioned how she's the only one that has the special power armor. He's wearing something that looks just like her, but blue.
Yeah.
And I was like, couldn't they go a little different? Like maybe not give him the shoulder pads or something?
Yeah. Well, they tell that story to him. I'm jumping ahead to issue 4. She meets an alien race, and they say, Samus is special. She's the only one who can wear this suit, and we're telling this story to you, guy who has the exact same suit but is blue.
Well, maybe here's my theory. I'll get to this theory later. We're gonna wait until we get there, but I'll tell you how this guy ended up with his blue suit. It's a mystery for later on in the podcast.
Okay.
Mystery box. What are you, J.J. Abrams?
Yeah, I got scoops and I'm holding them back. Okay, so the space colony also, by the way, looks like the Millennium Falcon in a lot of these panels, but it explodes because self-destruct. The whole colony had a self-destruct.
Everybody loves those space battles in Metroid. You know that, right?
Yeah. There's lots of space battles. Oh yeah, so the end of this issue, there's six I guess 12 pages each. I'm reading like double page spreads here. And I don't think we mentioned it either. If you want to read these yourself, they're all these issues of Nintendo Power on archive.org. We mentioned in the last episode, but you can go on there and read this yourself.
And specifically, these were then pulled out. Somebody else put them on in CBR files, again, on archive.org. So
perfect.
It was
perfect. Nice. They're also on Imgur. If you Google and install the Imgur app, you can find them. That's how I had to read them. I couldn't get anything else to work.
Wow. Well, chapter 2. Let's jump into it.
It's
we'll
findable
keep
and it's
going
free.
here.
Nobody cares about this. Protecting the right.
So this big space battle, Houston is like helping shoot down some ships and stuff, and he's like, "Hey, nice job, partner." And Sam's like, "I'm not your damn partner." We go back to the Federation where we meet a pretty cool alien. I like the design of this alien guy. He looks nice. He is the I forget his name. He's like the chief of the Federation.
Is it Tom Hardy or is it the other one, or is it Keaton?
Keaton is the alien.
And Tom Hardy. That's who I'm calling.
Tom Hardy.
He's had to be a translation. When it came here, someone went, who's famous right now?
Yeah.
I love the character design on Hardy.
Laurel and Hardy and Buster Keaton. I wonder if that's what they are.
Oh, that could be. It could be. But because they are definitely like the comedic duo of this whole bunch, and I did not expect these characters to really show up again in much capacity later. So when they do, I'm like, you know what? I'm glad you made these characters memorable instead of just like random blah blah blahs. But there's the nice green boss alien in charge, and Hardy is like. he was in charge of looking out for Metroids, going on patrols. Everyone not going on patrols, but he was like, monitoring the patrols. And he's like, hey, I thought you said there were no Metroids around here in this sector on Zebes. I always say Zebes, but I've heard people saying Zebes recently.
I've always said Zebes. I don't know where I picked that
everyone
up though.
says that.
I mean, I read in Nintendo Power. I don't know how I would have known it was Zebes or Zebes though. So
I think of Thebes, and so I think of
that makes sense. I call it Thebes, so.
I'd say Zebes too. So,
Yeah.
So.
Okay, good to know. Chris, you waiting on this?
I have no idea.
Okay, great.
We all read it, so I guess it's it doesn't. We should be happy that we read it in a book, and that's how we learn.
Yes, yes.
I read that quote somewhere.
So this Hardy guy is like, oh, they were destroyed forever ago. Well, I was like, well, Samus says they're back. And it's like, so maybe you haven't been doing your job very well. And Samus is like, forget it. I'm just gonna go find them. Houston says he's coming too. But she's like, no, Houston, you're only there for the bounties. You don't actually care about protecting the galaxy. Which I'm like, isn't Samus also a bounty hunter? Like, isn't
right?
That's fine.
Not a very
fine.
good one in this comic. But
Yeah, she. I've never actually seen Samus just like collecting bounties. Is that a game? Has that been a game?
There is Metroid Prime Hunters for the DS. It's a first-person arena shooter game intended to be multiplayer.
Do you collect bounties?
You team up, you fight other bounty hunters. I'm assuming you get bounties or something. I'm not sure though. I mean, like her first job that they talk about, like it seems like even in this comic, the Galactic Federation outsources to this bounty hunter to murder like to exterminate a big threat to the galaxy. It seems I would bring that in house. I wouldn't subcontract that, but
Well,
is Houston?
It's really dangerous.
Is Houston in the Metroid Prime Hunters game?
I don't know. I meant to look up, and I should just do that. Is Houston part of the Metroid Wikia?
I doubt it.
Is Houston like the second main character of Metroid Other M? It could be, and I would never know.
That's Adam.
Yeah, that's a robot guy, right?
In Fusion, yes.
Yes, the good game.
In Metroid Other M is when he's still alive before he got turned into a robot, or is the brain something like that?
Makes sense.
He does have his own page on the Metroid Wikia.
I can imagine.
Armstrong
So my question.
What the hell? His name is Armstrong Houston. Okay.
Wow.
Go ahead, Mike.
My question about Hardy is every time you see him, he's eating something. Like, even when he's in, like, there's something that happens later, he's eating again. Like, he just always has a sandwich on him.
He mentions he always has one on him just in case he needs a snack. That's a smart man. I'm all behind Hardy. Always keep a sandwich somewhere in a pocket just to have.
I'm sure it tastes good later.
It's just a big old hoagie. I don't know how it kept its form.
I mean, Key is pro Hardy. I'm anti Hardy. He seems like a space cop. So ACAB, all space cops.
Wouldn't it be? Oh, did you say ASCAB?
ASCAB, yeah.
ASCAB. Okay. We have Samus and Houston. They go to the planet Zebes. And this actually reminds me a lot of the comic. These scenes where, not where.
Aside from the fact that there's a second player.
Yeah, there's a second player, and as Samus gets a little bit overrun, Houston throws an energy sphere to Samus to recharge her health, which I thought was great.
He throws the energy bomb that you use to blow up stuff when you go into a morph ball. That's what it was.
Okay.
But somehow in comic world it heals her, where in game world it just blows up things. But hey,
it also makes her bounce when she's in the morph ball.
Yeah, but in this it could hurt her.
Yes.
I was a little confused there because I thought this was just like an energy ball, like that you would pick up in the game as health. And he found one and was like, I can't use this. It doesn't work with my suit. Might as well throw it to her. But
okay.
That was my interpretation of it. But they definitely do the healing with the bombs as well. And I'm confused by the whole thing. So I'm going to say we don't know.
I thought Houston wasn't going to come out of in this part because when you place your Metroid, there is early on in the game when you get down there is a dead body full of bugs at one point. So I was thinking that maybe that's where this comic was going to go.
That's good.
That Houston wasn't going to make it out of it, and then Houston was the guy that you found. I think there's one guy you do find in this game that just full of bugs has been dead. And
that would have been a good
they were
tie.
going for.
Yeah.
It's not.
Well,
but I thought that's what
it's not, but that was a great idea. I like that idea. I'm going to go with that canon now and just imagine
that would have
it
been
using-
cool. I mean, I thought because that would have made sense. It would have fit the game. You could still do your own weird thing, but you could still fit into the game because that character's there.
Well,
Yeah.
that.
I don't know. I mean, I feel like
Yeah.
somebody's like, "Hey, 9-year-old Vince Goodwin is going to be reading this. We don't want to traumatize him."
I mean, the uncle dies at the beginning of Link to the Past. That got me. I did get traumatized. I'm still stuck on that one. But that was like, oh,
Yeah.
See?
this got some real stakes. That's some good stuff.
Y'all
I
ever heard of
thought-
Spider-Man?
I always thought he was tired. When I was a kid, I was like, oh, he's tired. He need the rest. I never thought he was dead.
What do you think he was going to say? Zelda is your what?
No, Mike, he's just tired.
right.
He's tired. He'll be fine.
Well, honestly, up until this moment, 10 seconds ago, I always thought he was tired, and I thought he's in the end of the game.
Wow.
Is
I'm
he?
sorry. No, he's
Wow.
not. Maybe
Wow.
it's his ghost, like a Darth Vader moment or something, popping back in. I don't
Spoilers
remember
for
him being
Return
at
of
the end of the
Jedi.
game.
I
Return of
think
the
the
Jedi. Oh,
I'm trying to think like what other Zelda deaths there are. I don't think there's very many. Like seems like most characters don't have on-screen deaths. They're only creatures. But I guess there's a guard in Ocarina of Time. That counts.
Everybody's
But
favorite
anyway.
character, the guard.
Yeah.
guard. All right, so we're in the nest now. We're playing a
Chapter
two-player
3.
game of exploring
Back to the
nest.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have very generic but good chapter titles, I think. So we're hanging out. The spike like goes through Samus's arm.
Mhm.
It's like pretty nuts. Houston has been like picking up all these remains. Like, hey, this will be good bounties that I can sell. But he even drops them to help Samus. He like carries her. This is a very action packed issue. So I didn't take. Oh,
No,
did I?
I mean, the issues 2 and 3. It's a lot of action, and then Samus gets hurt, and so he takes her back to the ship. Because that's where you heal. I do this all the time in the video game.
I accidentally skipped the last half of this issue.
Oh,
and I didn't notice anything was wrong, so it mustn't have been that important.
well,
But,
like in the video game, you frequently leave the planet from Super Metroid. As you do.
Yes,
This
yeah.
is a joke for people who
When
played
you're
the
si-
video game.
yeah,
you
when-
never leave the
yeah.
planet. You're stuck on this one fucking planet the entire game. But in this one, she's like,
So-
I'll just fuck off to Chozo Homeworld and talk to the people who like created all the power ups. Which I'm pretty sure does not also happen in the video game. It's been a minute
Nope.
since I played it.
Also, the
No.
Chozo homeworld, I think, might be Zeb's.
Yeah, the Chozo homeworld is yeah, and so,
So-
where are the Chozo hanging out now?
They're on
I
that
don't know.
planet. Like in the game, she finds the Chozo statues, and and that's how she gets her abilities. And they still have technology there. It's not like she has to. They're also all dead too.
Yeah.
not here.
So they go to the Chozo homeworld and they meet old bird is what Samus keeps calling this old bird. I don't think that's its name. Samus just does not know it.
I wonder how much, because they
But
called them bird people also at the beginning, and I don't know if it was just like the translators or the original writer was not given much details. He's like, here's the images. He's like, oh, okay, there's bird people. All right, got it. I'm calling them bird people. That one's old bird.
Right.
Got it. Nailed it.
Right. And then meanwhile, back at the Federation, Ridley shows up to kidnap the chairman, Keaton and Hardy, and again, does not seem characteristic for Ridley, but I'm okay with it. I actually really like Ridley in this. And yeah, they start this healing process. So I really didn't miss much in the back half of this issue. Okay, let's go to number four.
No, you did not.
Number
what kind
four
of
is
voice
where
what kind
everything
of
happens.
voice do you think Ridley has? Like when this human pterodactyl is like talking and it's like, it's been a while,
See,
Chairman. What kind of voice does he have? Like a
I
cartoonish?
I can't help but hear Terrorsaur from Beast Wars, just because that's my guy. Terrorsaur, terrorize. Like that.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe like Starscream.
I was gonna say Starscream.
Oh,
Also,
yeah.
we're definitely in the Transformers world.
Well, there was an episode where Terrorsaur got Starscream's voice. It was a weird one. Anyways,
Well, and I, again, it's another digression, but Captain N, what gave Mother Brain the voice of Audrey 2, right? So
Mother Brain, right?
yeah, when
mean
people
green mother
think
from
of
outer
Mother
space.
Brain, yeah, they think of the Little Shop Audrey 2 voice.
weird. This is I'm glad. No, we need more diversions here. But it's okay. Chapter 4, Samus's story. the chapter here. The old bird has Samus in like a bubble, and she's healing up, doing some yoga poses in there.
It looks really funny the way they drew her
does.
upside down with her ass up in the air. Like, really?
Why is she upside down? Yeah. And
It's
the
called
old bird's
healing.
like,
Come on.
it's like, yeah, we're just healing her. This is an ancient Chozo treatment. She's got the blood of a Chozo. And Houston's like, what? I thought she was human. And so we get the whole story. So here's how it went. We got these pirates that attacked Zebes, which is the home of the Chozos. And they're, like a pretty peaceful race. And they've been kind of dwindling. And so when they got attacked, they didn't have any defenses.
It said they'd evolved to the point where war was not the answer. And then they'd learned.
And then
war came and they were not ready for it, unfortunately.
Yeah, but when war was the question, they did not actually have an answer.
Wow.
And there was a nearby Earth colony somewhere, and they also attacked that.
Earth
and so
exists.
The Chozo were.
Earth exists in the Metroid universe?
According to this, it does.
Yeah, why not?
I think Queens exists as well, because Houston at one point says another one bites the dust, and so I imagine they have Queen. So the Chozo go to these ruins of this other village that the evil space pirates attacked, and they see this little girl. And they bring her back to Zebes and they raise her as their own. And they're like, oh my God, she has the instincts of a warrior. And us Chozo nerds don't have any of that. So we're going to put some of our blood in you so that, you get some of our powers.
So I got a question.
Make you, yeah, go for it.
You think Mother Brain's clone of her son brought Samus to that village and left her there? The parents that were taking care of weren't really her parents?
This is Rise of Skywalker. Yeah.
Yes.
No. It's possible.
Oh my gosh.
It's possible.
I feel like Metroid is exclusively stealing from the Alien franchise. So they can't.
They're not stealing from
They can't steal from Star Wars too.
So they
did have a Bacta container in here, but yeah, that is very Star Wars.
A what container?
Bacta container. When Luke's all naked in the swimmy liquid to heal himself.
Yeah.
That's very similar to here.
Maybe this comic is more Star Wars than Alien. Maybe we were wrong.
Hey, and they got the panel of her fencing with a bird thing with a little stick sword.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. She's so like a very strong little girl.
Panel. It's when artists, I feel like, don't know how to draw children because they're used to drawing adults, and then their proportions are like always weird sometimes.
It's just like a small human with a big head. Yeah.
Right. We saw that with what was it? Scarlet Witch's kids were very much just like shrunken down adults.
Yeah, they were jacked too. Jacked babies. Yeah, and also her hair is purple. Is this the only appearance she's had with purple hair?
I'm not good enough to ever see what Samus actually looks like in the real game.
I feel like she's pretty canonically blonde. I mean, I know that's like the Smash Brothers Zero Suit look is the blonde
Does she
hair.
have green hair in the original Metroid? If you do good enough,
I think she has like kind of like brown hair.
Okay.
But it's not like purple, I'm pretty sure.
I think the green hair is in Super Metroid at the end.
Oh, okay.
This whole comic, there's another scene later where Ridley is in two panels back to back, and one time he's green, one time he's red, just because like the coloring is looking different and like stuff is. I think this comic takes a lot of liberties with like shadows and pretending like there's different lighting happening and that sort of stuff.
So the promotional artwork made for the game had her with purple hair.
Oh.
Which is probably they're probably rocking off of like the instruction manual. So.
Yeah, she is blonde in the actual model of like her Zero Suit.
Yeah.
Well, Zero Suit didn't come till Metroid Zero Mission.
Well, her like swimsuit look if you beat it fast.
Okay.
So the suit is like supposed to be protecting her all the time. If she was paying attention and wasn't distracted, she wouldn't have gotten stabbed by that weird spike thing. So clearly, she was distracted by you, dude. Is what the old bird says to Houston. He's like, "What? She was thinking of me?" And then old bird's like, "I don't know. Maybe she was thinking about the Metroid hatchling." Like I'm just kind of saying.
That's a very Yoda answer. Like, I don't know.
So now we cut to, I think this is actually my panel of the week. It's Mother Brain, who is pissed off at this little baby Metroid hatchling who is running away from her and does not see that Mother Brain is its mother because it still sees Samus as the mother.
And also Mother Brain is a terrifying monster that
It's terrifying.
It's like a brain, but it looks like it has like red curly hair for the brain.
Yeah.
And then a single
With one eye.
spikes
And there's
also
like
coming out of the brain.
spikes.
And robot
Yeah.
arms, like an ostrich body with no feathers.
It's a mess. Yeah, a real mess.
It's an art design, I'll tell you that.
And it's supposed to be in the tube at this point. Like, it's not even supposed to be in that final form.
I don't know the lore. I don't know the lore. So
we've gone off script.
This all happens in the video game. So Ridley has captured Keaton and Hardy. Remember in the video game where you have to rescue them?
Yeah,
he's
a great
captured
subquest.
them.
Man, I didn't do it though. I got the bad ending because I didn't save Keaton and Hardy.
Oh no.
Well, so Ridley says, "Listen, Mother Brain, I've got a plan. I've kidnapped these people that I guess Samus works for. Samus will come after them. We're going to use them as bait. And then when Samus is here, we're going to kill her right in front of the baby. And when the baby sees that Samus is dead, the baby won't think of Samus as his mom anymore. Done." And Mother Brain says, "Great. Good plan. Get on it."
Perfect.
It's an overcomplication, Ridley. Like, she cares more about the baby than her bosses. I would imagine.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so. I think so. So Samus is free now, gets out of the little bubble thing and says, "I sense it, that these guys that I know have been kidnapped." Which, again, I didn't know that was one of Samus's powers, but it is. And then there's a big explosion.
No, wait. She's not healed yet, but this is my panel of the week, or at least quote of the week. I'll use the healing power of the power bombs.
Yeah, okay, this is where we're talking about. We have no idea how or why or what. Is it maybe that the guy who wrote this comic, got like a quick preview of the game and was like, "Oh, I see, there's circles. Oh, these circles explode. Wait a minute, there's more circles. Oh, these circles heal." Made the conclusion. Circles both heal and explode.
Like, when we read the Ocarina of Time manga, they clearly said that they started before the game was out. And so so they said, we got to kill time for a few issues before the game comes out. I mean, if this came out, at least in the US version came out 2 months before the game came out. Because I think the game is April 94.
Right.
So...
And Nintendo's probably giving you like key art of Mother Brain, of Ridley, of Samus, and it's like you fill in the rest, I guess.
Right?
Yeah, it'll be fine. Just write a story. It's gonna be okay. Nobody's gonna read this.
I certainly didn't. I read my Nintendo Powers cover to cover and just skipped over these comics. I'm like, I'm missing something. This is a grown-up game. I don't get it.
Okay, so there's like a big explosion where she's using this power bomb to heal herself. And Houston says, "Why didn't you do this in the first place?" And then the old bird says, "Because it's very dangerous." And so she tries it anyways. There's a big explosion. Cliffhanger. And then we are on to the final issue where thankfully Samus is okay. She's not dead. I thought, it's possible. Cliffhanger to 4. We start number 5. Well, we start number 5. I'm like, sorry, everyone. Samus died in the last one. It's over. So everything's okay. The old bird says to Samus, "All right, listen, you got to go do what you got to do. But listen, we don't know how good this whole healing stuff works. And we don't know how strong the pirates are. They've been cloning or something. So don't get distracted thinking about that hatchling, and good luck." Which I think is fine. Ridley can see
the entire game in like 2 pages.
This is where the game takes place. You're right.
Yes.
This panel, we get a really nice big 2-page spread of the Super Metroid game. And then this is also exactly as it happens in the game. Ridley is watching, says, "Her power seems to have increased dramatically. I'm going to make a tactical retreat." And Ridley just leaves, which is great. One of his is like, "What do you do? Who's going to lead the troops?" And it's like, Mother Brain can handle it. I'm out of here. Did not expect that at all. So no,
That's probably why I was hearing Starscream. That's a real Starscream move.
Yes, it really is. So Ridley sees that. We get Keaton and Hardy. They get to break free because Hardy always has a sandwich with him. They use it to lure over one of the other guards, And this works because I guess Mother Brain doesn't feed the guards enough. And but then they mention this logic as well. I'm like, okay, glad you mentioned it. And they're free, and so they're running around. Everybody meets up all together. Houston first finds Hardy and Keaton, and Keaton or one of them like shoots down a Metroid that's flying by because they find a gun. And then when Samus shows up, they're like, "Oh my God, you shot the hatchling!" And they're like, "What? That's the hatchling?" I'm like, yeah, Mother Brain exposed it to massive levels of radiation. Now it's like sick and dying, and I think that this is where they found out this is going to be the last issue because they had to wrap it all up real fast. I was expecting a lot more, but in one 2-page spread, we get Samus goes after Mother Brain. The first panel on this page is, "No, I'm disintegrating." Everyone says it. She did it. And then, "Let's get out of here. The entire planet is going to blow." Then they're on the ship.
Next panel.
Kaboom.
Boom.
And oh boy, and that's it. Samus is like, "Oh, well, that was the last Metroid," and Houston says, "Well, that's just how it goes. I guess you and me can be partners now," or something like, "Whatever." And it's the end. It's a weird last page.
Yes, it is. It's a weird comic.
It's a very weird comic, but I gotta say, I had a great time reading this comic. I really loved it. I especially loved issue number 4. If you're not gonna read any of them, I think read issue 4. You get the origin, you get a little taste of Mother Brain, you get a taste of Ridley, you got all the weirdos from everywhere, man. I think number 4, that's the one you read. But weird comic.
Oh yeah,
I don't know.
Existed until Vince.
Oh really? Oh man,
yeah.
It's been in the back of my head, and I'm like, I should probably read this at some point because I love the Link to the Past comic that came in Nintendo Power. It was really good, and quite frankly, I was never good enough to get very far in any of these games. So like, this was the way I learned about video games and learned the story. So now the question is whether or not Link to the Past actually is the same way. The comic
Nope.
makes me think
You're
that
wrong.
way. Because this comic is not that at all, and
Not at all.
and to the point where I don't even know who it's for. Is it promotional to try to get you interested in buying the game of Metroid?
That's what I would say.
It's just content. You know,
Yeah.
it's just
I
content.
I think it's a more like, because video games even in the mid 90s are like we can't have like a second protagonist. We can't have like conversations and all. I mean, there's like voice acting for like 10 seconds of that Super Nintendo game. It's very cinematic, and then the rest of the game is like it's not like this. This is all a red herring. We kind of wanted it to seem like a movie for the one like exploding sequence, and then the rest of it is not going to be like this.
Yeah, I mean, this makes me wonder why. It's like I remember they make like Assassin's Creed or Mass Effect comics and all those kind of things, and they're all like side stories or prequels. And it probably makes sense because one, you're operating on an unfinished script, and also just it's easier to tell a full story because with like Super Metroid, like the point is you are Samus and you're going and doing all this stuff alone. You're not interacting with people. You're just killing things, and then there's kind of like an emotional end at the end with the Mother Brain, which is not how this plays out at all. But,
Yeah.
Not at all.
I just wonder how you can do like a comic, or a story about Super Metroid, because they've floated like Super Metroid movies. I don't think you can do it unless she's with like a cast, and then it kind of like changes what the story is for you.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
also, like, so Super Metroid, the whole theme of Super Metroid is isolation.
Right.
That's like the theme of the game, is that you are by yourself, and the only other person you see that isn't trying to kill you is a dead guy. Yeah. There's nothing else.
But it's
could have done like a real abstract thing.
And
Chris, you were going to say something?
Statues. Yeah, well, I mean, it's just like they made the Mario movie and it was bad. The Zelda movie, if they tried to make it, it would just be Legend. I mean, that movie already exists and is also bad. Like, there's just they're very straightforward. Structures. The game is the thing that people like, not the
story.
The story.
The story's fine, but it's not like the draw,
Right. Yeah. There's just not a whole lot as far as like what is her. I mean, and again, I made a joking reference to it earlier, but like Metroid: The Other M tried to like explore the character of Samus, and nobody liked it. I mean, it was just like, what if we had her like be really attached to this space baby, and what if Samus had like an internal monologue about the baby?
Yeah.
Isn't that what people like about her?
No, there are good Metroid stories, I guess, in this world.
Sure.
Other End is a bad story, but
I think of Metroid Dread, and I'm like, sure, I'm gonna be interested, I guess, to see where the story goes, but I'm not buying that game for the story, and just because I'm worried and like wondering what's happening to Samus.
Yeah,
I'm buying it because I want to play a Metroid game.
It's the conclusion of Sakamoto's story that he started in 1986.
Yeah.
He's been working. He wanted to finish this story since Metroid Fusion. It's Metroid 5. This is the marketing. I don't care.
Not only do I care about that story, I bought Mario Golf on the Switch because I care very deeply about the ongoing saga of Mario Golf. Who will win?
Charge and Chuck's story about how Charge and Chuck's story got me in that game.
The problem is you never know if it's canon until it's done, and then you can figure out if it fits in.
Will he learn Control? Who knows?
The one part with the moderately good story in the Metroid franchise, the Prime games, don't count as part of the canon. So there you go.
Really?
Okay, so here's what I'll say. This all, and like why this comic book is this, it reminds me of when, like, I don't know, did you ever buy like an old action figure that came with like a terrible little mini comic or something like that? It was always terrible, but it was always just like, you just put it in there just so you can say it comes with a comic. And you put zero effort into it, and it's just there. And it just is. That's just it. It's like I have so many of these Beast Wars figures that have, like, that's the second time Beast Wars, friend of the show, coming up here. But like they just came with these little comics that literally had characters that just like weren't in the show, and it's just okay. Yeah. If you say your thing has a comic, you're more likely to pick it up off the shelf. Like, oh, I get a tips and tricks, and I get to read the Super Metroid story. Hell yeah!
That probably made somebody buy it.
Yeah.
I will say though, like there are good like video game comics. Like I do like the Ocarina of Time manga that we read last year.
Yeah.
And I've been reading the Persona 5 manga as it's come out. I think Volume 7 comes out next month. And it's just the story of Persona 5, but I don't have to play the game and manage my social links. It's really good. It's just a good murder mystery. It's good.
Yeah, well, and like, what Mike was saying about Metroid being about isolation, like the Zelda games do translate into manga pretty easily because he's like constantly meeting like women who immediately fall in love with him. And he's like, what?
Yes.
And so like there's constantly these like romantic misunderstandings, and like they were able to make what's her name from the ranch a major character and all this stuff, where she doesn't really do anything in the game except give you a horse.
But he can roll into a town and say like, our well is poisoned, and he'd be like, I got this. This is the dungeon. I can do this. So I guess it makes more sense to have like more episodic things like that.
I mean, it's almost like The Witcher or something, where there's constantly like new people for him to meet and interact with, where Samus just kind of like all she does is fight space pirates and that one pterodactyl pirate.
Yeah, and the pterodactyl had to be characterized to be like, okay, well, I mean, we didn't even have Kraid, who's like, big deal is like, I'm fat and I gotta shoot my belly a lot and I shoot blade spikes out of my belly. But like, I'm trying to think like, oh, the ghost ship wasn't in here. I'm like, but what would you do with the ghost ship comics? You're like, oh, it's a ghost ship. Yep, that's it. All right.
Mm-hmm.
And you could have just been some panels, and it would have been cool to do. Like when you guys first brought this book to my attention, I thought it was going to do just a little bit of each of the game as you go through and see the other boss. Like, oh, I got this now, and instead we get a whole different story of her just running around with a guy from Texas. Like, not what
honestly, I'm happier with it though. Other than if it was just like, now I'm in this section of the game, now I'm fighting these people, now I'm in this section.
Oh, I upgraded my blaster.
It would have felt like a DC movie.
Now I have the screw attack. Now I can spin 20 panels of spinning.
I'm glad it ended
I should go back to the puzzle I couldn't do earlier.
I don't think I go that far, but just like have Kraid and little things like that.
That would be great. That's what you should do in the Metroid movie if they ever made something like that. You go like, now I can go back to that part I couldn't at the beginning.
It's constantly her going to dead ends, and then you're just like, well, maybe I'll check that other dead end. Shit, not this one either. Okay, well, how about this other one?
Ooh, now there's a missile door. I know what to do with that.
I got it.
Yeah, I mean, and again, I know this is it's a tangent, but the Tomb Raider movie from about 4 years ago, I found really disappointing because they got rid of all the like supernatural elements of the Rise of the Tomb Raider game, and so it's like, so what is it? It's just like young Indiana Jones. Like, what are we doing?
No, we
If
refuse
there-
these things.
Yeah, she's not shooting dinosaurs and like meeting, solving weird like cryptozoology, Garden of Eden stuff. Like, what is the point? Like, if she's just looking at archaeology, I don't care about that. And at the end of that movie, she uses MMA moves to beat up one man.
Cool.
Are we ready to move on to Spider-Man?
Well, I think so. Yeah, I've got nothing more to say about Super Metroid, I don't think, other than that I kind of wish the series was a little bit more like this comic. That's I wish Ridley was a little zanier. That would make me happy.
So,
I just like
Kia,
the
there
zany.
are apparently, and I don't know if they're translated in English, but there are 2 Metroid mangas that have every character, including Hardy and Keaton, in it. The only character that's not in it is Houston, but everybody else returns.
Poor Houston. Wow, got cut. Poor thing. Okay, maybe I'll check it out. Same guy, different guy.
Different writer, yeah.
And they kept Hardy and Keaton.
Classic characters.
That's bizarre. Wait a minute. Now I gotta know: are Hardy and Keaton elsewhere in the universe?
I don't know.
Well, okay. Well,
They gonna appear in Dread. It's gonna be like a
God.
sandwich based.
And apparently it has scenes that are relevant to Other M that help make Other M scenes make sense because Other M references things that happen in the manga.
Wow.
And only in the manga.
Wow.
Interesting. Gotta read it. Okay, I'll read it and then I'll never play Other M.
I started
So-
Other M. I didn't get very far.
I bought it for
Me either.
$9.99 on sale and never touched it. It's still in the shop.
That's me in every game. Okay, so I think we are ready to jump into Amazing Spider-Man number 11 here, and we got some exciting stuff happening on the cover. We got the return of Doc Ock going on here, which who is returned as far as villains? The Vulture returned, and is that it?
Yeah, I mean, technically Doctor Doom was the focus, but he's not. It was
No,
not a return
yeah.
to Spider-Man.
No.
Right. So this is our second return villain.
Yeah, if you don't count like Flash Thompson, he's the most returning
Flash
villain. He's not in this
Thompson.
issue though.
He's not. Is this our first issue without Flash in a while?
It's been a
We
long
also
time.
have no J. Jonah Jameson in this issue, which, as we have decided in the past, is not a good sign for a Spider-Man comic when it does not have a J. Jonah Jameson.
As a guy who's never read any Amazing Spider-Man, I just picked up this first issue and read it for this episode.
Oh wow!
I had no. I'm like, the first page here you have Betty hitting him, and I'm like, who the fuck is Betty? Where's Gwen? Where's
So here's what you have to know about these comics as well. This first panel is like a weird, like I guess you can gather it, but it's like it always starts with these pinup pages of just like a nice big, what do you call this? Preview of what's coming in this comic.
And a real like Stan Lee like huckster kind of salesman guy. And I love this one. It says none but Stan Lee could have written this. None but Steve Ditko could have drawn this. Also lettered by S. Rosen.
This one
Anyone
also has
could have done that.
Anyone could have lettered this, but Ditko and Lee, those are the key ingredients.
So, and listening to one of your previous episodes, Betty was in the issue right before this. Is that his-
Betty is the current love interest. They work together at the Daily Bugle.
Yeah.
Which is not mentioned at all in this comic.
Yeah.
No,
she was
I thought
played
she
by
went to
Elizabeth
school.
Banks in the Raimi movies. She had maybe one line.
Yeah, and she's also in the Tom Holland movie. She's the newscaster on the beginning movie. You know, when they're like, "Man, that blip was so crazy, wasn't it?" And she's the blonde girl. I think she was also on the Beguiled. I don't know.
I always
the
thought
actress's name.
When Stacy was his first girlfriend, because I know she dies later. I didn't realize that there was someone else before her.
You know, we
Nope.
could say that Gwen Stacy was maybe his first serious girlfriend, but Peter Parker's a ladies' man. That's all.
Yeah, Betty's
that's
your
all
first
he's
one.
doing.
Actually, they've been pretty cute together. They everybody
Yeah.
in the previous issues, everybody's been making fun of Parker. Like a villain will attack the school. or their place of business, and everybody would be like, Parker went and hid, like as you would do in an active shooter situation. And like, you're such a wimp. But then like Betty's also hiding, and they're like, oh, like we're so cute, we're hiding together, and they can be like real cute. It's actually pretty darn cute.
Okay,
and she's also an intern, even though she works like an adult job, or she's definitely like around 17, 18.
Yeah,
so it's age appropriate.
She said I think she said she's like a high school senior or something like that. But yeah, she like left at the end of the last issue. She skipped town because she was dealing with some sort of money trouble that we don't really know about. And she was like, I can't tell Peter about this. Yeah. I have to just run away instead. Yeah, I think that's all we really need to know before we get into it. I wish we could have told you that before you had to read it. But I
was fine.
We forgot that this is actually where we're starting to get like carryover from previous issues, like carrying over.
Yeah,
which is still pretty weird for this era.
Yeah, there were a lot more one and dones today, but I think because this one is so focused elsewhere. Yeah, no high school stuff at all, and essentially no work stuff other than like being linked through work to Betty Brant.
Because I tried reading original Avengers, and I got 6 issues in before I just could not handle that anymore.
Yeah, it's it can be a little tough to get through some of that old stuff. It's dense as well. Yeah.
I would recommend starting around the Kree Skrull War, like which is like 8 or 9 years later. Like it's Roy Thomas, Steve Englehart is when Avengers starts being like readable.
Yeah, give them some time to get their legs under.
It was
not Stan Lee's greatest work. Fantastic Four is better. Fantastic Four and Spider-Man are definitely his best books.
They're fun. They're experimental.
This was better than the Avengers crap I read, so I can say
that. X-Men and Avengers and Daredevil, I would say, are Stan Lee's worst written books.
So, Stan Lee, not great at team books, it sounds like. No, because that's not true, because the Fantastic Four is fine. I don't know. Never mind. So, Spider-Man is hanging out. He's moping around. He's listening to the news, and they're going to release Doc Ock today. So Spider-Man is like, no, fuck this. He breaks into the warden's office and says, don't do it. And
the balls on this kid. The balls on this.
That's not how anything works. This fucking 16-year-old that's like, you shouldn't release this criminal from prison. I'm going to let him know.
It's the law. I didn't make this decision.
What did he get arrested for? Like, I mean, he must have done something terrible in his first issue.
Yeah, he kidnapped a bunch of scientist people and was holding them hostage.
That's only 1 year, apparently, in this world.
Good behavior.
Good behavior. Yeah, why not?
1 year
he's
crime.
Also,
you know how it goes. I mean, we can't keep him away indefinitely.
He's a doctor.
But he is a doctor. Yeah, and maybe he was able to play like the accident that I was just in. It had me thinking all messed up thoughts. I don't know. But
it is funny that they let him have the arms.
Like,
you're out of prison. Here you go.
They're fused onto him. They can't take them off, right?
Sure.
Is that the
I never heard of a buzzsaw.
But they let him just like. But they really don't even try to like cut him out at all, or like restrain him, anything. He's just been allowed to practice with these arms and get better, and he's like, all right, I'm stronger now, so when I bust out, it's gonna be even easier to do crimes. And Spider-Man though has made a tracking device, so they're upping each other's games. I like it.
I do like when as he's leaving the prison, like in Blues Brothers, where they're like, with your skills, you could definitely get a job, and he's like, a job?
Job, no thing. I love that purple suit of his. I have no idea how he gets it on. It seems complicated as hell, but I love that purple suit. And he wears this like for most of the issue, I think. And then somebody picks him up from jail. To drive him where he needs to go, and Spider-Man's there. He's keeping track of what's going on, and he's like, "Oh, that's a woman's voice in the car. Who is it? Oh my God, it's Betty Brant." Whoa, shocker! I didn't remember this at all. I'd read this forever ago, and I was like, "What the hell? Betty Brant driving Doc Ock around? What's going on?"
She's turned evil.
She's turned evil. Spider-Man throws the tracker on the car. It's a very conspicuous spot, just right on top. Anybody who's standing next to the car would be like, "What the hell is this giant spider doing on your car?"
I like how he clarifies his spider tracer has an adhesive to it. and that's why it sucks. Like in my head, it was always magnetized, but I guess not.
Yeah. It's got like a little post-it note kind of. So
I've never thought about how the spider tracker stays on. I've never thought about it.
Magnet is definitely what I was thinking as well.
But
A road map falls out of the car as Doc Ock is getting it. We didn't have any maps in the last comic, so I'm glad we got some maps here. We get a map to Philadelphia, and the car had Pennsylvania license plates.
It had
Spider-Man
Benzie license plates, but S. Rosen couldn't write that out.
But there's no room. There's no room.
There's no room in the word balloon.
So we cut to Pennsylvania, where we have Betty Brant's brother, Bennett Brant, who's a lawyer, and his client named Blackie Gaxton, who is like a mob boss, is in jail, and he's a real asshole to Bennett. Bennett has like a gambling debt, and so he has to plot to. He has been in contact with Dr. Octopus to get Dr. Octopus to break Blackie Gaxton out of prison. They're gonna pay Doc Ock like $100,000, and then Bennett Brant is free of everything. And also Betty's been roped into all this because she's the one driving Doc Ock to Pennsylvania in an effort to make sure that her brother's going to be safe. Well, there's a lot happening in this comic, all out of nowhere, all 100% out of nowhere.
Yeah. All we knew previously is that Betty had a dark secret she couldn't tell Peter.
Yeah.
And so I guess this is it.
It's not even her secret, to be honest. He said, well, we'll get there. But we get a nice scene where Betty and Bennett then like meet, but Doc Ock is also being an asshole. It was like, hey, you didn't want to talk to me the whole ride. Am I not good enough for you? And Bennett's.
It is funny how much Steve Ditko draws Bennett to look like blonde, slightly older Peter.
Yeah, it's pretty accurate.
They look very similar.
Is he Ben Reilly, really?
Oh, Bennett Reilly. Oh my God, we got to dig into this. Okay, so Betty is like, okay, I don't know what Betty does after this, but she's like, okay, well, can I go? And Bennett's like, well, I got to stay because they're not going to let me off the hook yet until the whole thing is done. And Betty's like, well, aren't you going to be an accessory then? Are the cops going to get you? Oh, I don't know. Peter goes to Philip. Peter tells Aunt May, like, hey, I think I'm going to go check out the Liberty Bell and some other cool stuff over there. And Aunt May's like, okay, cool, go for it.
You know what you do when you're 16. You just go, hey, Mom, I'll see you later. I'm going to a different state. Don't wait up for me.
On a flight. It says.
That was the part I thought was weird. I was like, it's like a 3-hour train ride. Like, what are you doing?
They have
you don't even have to buy a ticket. You're Spider-Man.
They have money troubles. Like
they do have money troubles.
Like
yeah.
That's in this comic then?
What'd you say?
Like that's in these early comics, like just like in the movies, he has no money.
Yeah, I mean,
it's been in the last few issues.
Yeah, Uncle Ben. Yeah, because Uncle Ben was like their only source of income, and he died. Like May was like pawning her jewelry in like the second or third issue to try to make money.
And Peter is making spider trackers, which can't be cheap.
So you're telling me he took rent money to buy a plane ticket?
Yeah, to go 3 hours.
They own a house in Queens.
They're fine.
She turns it into a boarding house later.
So Peter finds Betty. He goes up to her. It's like, oh, I've been looking for you. Oh, you mean so much to me. And Betty confides in him. And I was like, oh, I should have just told you from the start. And Peter's got this like shit-eating grin on his face. Like, don't worry, Betty. I hear Spider-Man's in town tracking Doc Ock. Wink, wink. And he's thinking to himself, like, you know what? I'm going to tell her my secret identity when we get back to New York. Yeah. And the front cover even teased this as well on one little blurbs. And I'm like, all right, I'm into this.
Peter, you shouldn't think thoughts like this. This is what dooms you.
This is what dooms you. So Doc Ock, meanwhile, is getting ready to do this job that he's going to get paid for. He busts the guy out of jail. Spider-Man gets there late. And the cops are like, hey, look, it's Spider-Man. Maybe he's the one who helped him escape. Spider-Man's like, oh, well, I really fucked this up. So as he's getting away, Betty and Bennett are now basically being held prisoner by these guys' goons, and they're taken to the getaway ship where they're planning to wait there, and then a bigger ship is going to come take them to a different country. And then so Blackie and Doc Ock get there, and Doc Ock's like, all right, I'm just waiting for my money. And Doc Ock really has like very little motivation. It doesn't feel like a Doc Ock comic at all. It feels like this whole mob story, and Doc Ock is just like a lackey in it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I guess he just needs to get some petty cash to get on his feet again.
That makes sense. Yeah, do a quick job. Yeah. But Blackie punches Bennett. Bennett was like, "Oh, my debt is paid. Can you let us go?" I was like, "No, and I'm gonna punch you." So Spider-Man is watching all this. Fucking Spider-Man comes in and he's like swinging onto the ship, and he trips on a bundle of rope and sprains his ankle.
Yes,
like you damn losers, Spider-Man.
Yeah.
What?
You gotta wear some high tops instead of these PJs. You need more ankle support.
And so I'm looking at this from the perspective of Doc Ock, who's just got busted out of jail, doing an easy job for $100,000, hasn't even like seen Spider-Man yet, probably isn't even thinking of Spider-Man, and then these goons just like bring him in like, "Hey boss, we captured Spider-Man." That's gotta feel pretty good for Doc Ock, I think. But of course, the fight breaks out. Everybody's fighting. Throws some goons into Doc Ock, goes down the stairs into like, the bottom part of the ship. What's that place called? I don't know. Tussles a little bit with yeah.
No, I don't know.
Sure, that one.
The starboard.
It's the
aft.
Poop
it's
deck.
the car. It's the Hargo Coal Star bow. And so Spider-Man's kind of tussling with Blackie. Blackie has a gun, shooting wildly, and Spider-Man's like, don't get in the way. I'll wait for me to put his gun up. But then Bennett's like, I gotta get in front of Betty. And then Bennett gets shot and is dead. And that's very sad. And Betty says she hates Spider-Man. And I can understand that. It's not really Spider-Man's fault, but
that's the repeat from our splash page at the beginning.
Yeah, it's a repeat. I also a little confused by the logic here of Spider-Man saying like, no, it would have been safe if he hadn't gotten in the way. But like, Betty was definitely in the line of fire, and Bennett was jumping in front to like protect him, right?
Well,
protect her.
I guess the smart thing would have been to push Betty down rather than get in the way.
Yeah, like literally, just everybody get down. I don't know.
Yeah.
And Betty was also standing there as if she wasn't in danger. She's like, Bennett, I'm fine. Just wait for Spider-Man to handle it. But it is what it is. There's a little bit more ship fighting here. Doc Ock tries to escape with the money and with Betty kidnapping her, but Spider-Man intervenes. They fight on a little boat.
I do like the scene of all the goons like holding on to Spider-Man as he's like dodged all these bullets, even with his sprained ankle. And then he just like picks up Blackie and then like throws all of them with one punch. And, like, I don't know how that worked exactly, but it was cool.
I liked it. It was you're right. Where it's like, there's only like, what do you say? There's only one language a killer like you understands. It's filled with rage. I like Spider-Man filled with rage.
Yeah.
That seemed a little outside of character though, for that little part.
Yeah, well, he's mad.
Yeah, that's what happens. He breaks character when he's mad. That's just how it is. That's
well,
one of his character traits.
I mean, famously, he almost killed the burglar, and just barely managed to not do it. So it hasn't been that
Just
long.
barely.
Okay.
Yeah, Peter
Mike,
Parker.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, over the course of these issues, I think that's what you were gonna be getting at, Vince, is that he's got like a weird incel rage burning within him, and it's just there. It's just there.
We know in these early issues that the artists at Marvel tended to do the writing, a lot of it, and I believe that Steve Ditko is a big objectivist and a follower of Ayn Rand. So there's certain things that come out in Peter, but and then he's going to evolve and be less of a dick and be less of a baby Ben Shapiro, as we've called him before. So.
He thinks about like revenge constantly. Revenge is always on Spider-Man's mind, and it's just how he is. You just gotta love him or leave him.
I guess in Steve Ditko's mind, Dr. Octopus is a bad guy because he says he's above all morality and he can do whatever he wants, but he's too weak to actually get away with it. So that's what makes him a failure.
And also, weirdly, at this era, Peter still has no friends. We've been reading this for a year. Peter has no friends. He doesn't have like his Genki or his Ned. Is that the character's name in the Tom Holland movies? He has no Harry
Ned's
Osborn
from
yet.
Ultimate Spider-Man, I think, right?
Yeah, Harry Osborn's later. I mean, like Flash has warmed up to Peter a little bit. He's nicer to him. But yeah, he has like no one he actually talks to like a regular person. He is a huge asshole to all of his high school friends.
And now he's always thinking about Spider-Man stuff, so he doesn't even give anybody the time of day. So he's not going to make any friends anytime soon.
Yeah, and he has a girlfriend who doesn't even go to the school. You don't know her.
Yeah, she's in Pennsylvania right. So they're fighting on this ship, and it's the cops in a boat are like, "Hey, that ship is driving all weird. Let's go check it out." Because I guess they don't see Spider-Man and Doc Ock fighting on top. But as the boat like crashes into like a pier, and Spider-Man and Doc Ock each go running separately, and so Doc Ock gets away. There's a scene with the cops going, "Oh, there's no trace of Spider-Man," and Spider-Man is literally standing on the roof right next to them. Look up, dude.
They're not the smartest cops.
Yeah, they didn't look very hard.
They don't have spider sense.
Betty later is talking to Peter. It's like, oh, it was wrong of me to blame Spider-Man, but I still never want to see Spider-Man again. It's just too sad to remember what happened. And Peter's like, you know what? I think Spider-Man would probably understand if he heard you. And it's the end.
I do want to go for one of the also like completely like oblivious Peter panels here. One of his thought balloons is like, and Betty's okay, except for that sorrow that happened to her brother. Like her brother was murdered in front of her. She seems okay. I mean, she's a little shaken up, but she'll be fine.
Yeah. Hey, all things considered, she's fine. She's a tough girl. Tough girl.
I mean, emotionally, she's shaken up, but physically, she's fine. That's the important thing.
Okay.
I do also during his death scene as well. What did Bennett say? Where he's like, "It's better. It's better this way. I was no good to anyone. Maybe now you can wash your hands of all this." And so, you know what? In a way, I think Bennett died a happy death because now he knows his sister can at least be freed of his burdens.
I do think that I was thinking like he maybe tried to kill himself. I was like, then I won't be like, she won't be on the hook for like all the stuff with Mikey and Doc Ock and stuff. So I was thinking maybe like he jumped in the front of the bullet on purpose.
And he has like a 60s like life insurance policy for like $1 million or something.
Ooh, he is a lawyer. You're Chris. You're a lawyer.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you have a 60s life insurance policy. So I feel like this is how lawyers are.
Yeah.
And I heard you were going to fake your own death.
Yeah. So, shut up. Only my clients get me. That's a weird clause in the life insurance.
So now we have Vince. You should write a retcon where it turns out he didn't die all these years ago, which now means that Betty is free to fall in love with Peter, who can tell her the secret.
What if just suddenly 60 years later is like, it's okay. I no longer blame you for my brother's death.
Because he didn't.
And the whole audience would be like, "What?
The audience would be like, "Who the hell's Betty?"
She dated Flash Thompson in the Venom comics when Flash was Venom briefly.
Yeah, she married Ned Leeds.
She married the Hobgoblin. That's true. Yes, that's true.
The fake Hobgoblin.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that how it is now? Yeah,
so this I don't remember which other issue it was, but it definitely reminded me of. It was like Stan Lee had one of these stories for the other comics that were just like strange mysteries and getting involved with the mob, and he's like, you know what? Let's just put Spider-Man in this one and Doc Ock, and you know what? It'll be fine. It'll be fine. And you know what? It was fine. It's not the best, not the worst. I appreciate the change of scenery, but I miss J. Jonah Jameson. He's really been the best part of these comics.
So he does come back in that Venom 2012 series.
Really?
Bennett does?
Yeah, Bennett is there.
I read all of that. I don't know anything that happened in that entire series.
He's the crime master. I don't know if that name rings a bell.
It does. It rings a bell, but again, I read all of that monthly and enjoyed it and would tell people that was a good comic. What did Venom do? What did he fight? No idea.
You don't know.
Probably the
Yeah,
Crime
well.
Master, I would guess.
Yeah, he apparently fights the Crime Master at some point, and he dates Betty Brant, which, I mean, I guess
Oh, there's some good
that's
story
what's going to
complication.
happen.
Rick Remender, you sly dog.
That's what's going to happen. You date Betty Brant, the brother's corpse somehow comes back after 50 years.
Comics.
So, Mike, as somebody who hasn't been reading these, like, we're getting into these, and we're like, oh, yeah, I like this. I'm, like, on board. But you don't have much experience, I guess, with these 60s Stan Lee comics, do you?
No, I had no idea. I just knew that there's lots and lots of words. So I remember that. I've read a few old comics.
There are a lot of words.
Too many words.
I think this may literally have been, like, of all the early Spider-Mans that we've read, the worst one you could have jumped into. I think
it made no sense.
It's not like it's bad or terrible or anything, but it doesn't have the same sort of, like, fun and charm, and it replaces the fun cast that they've built, the ensemble, with just random monsters that I don't know or care anything about.
Well, and it feels like so many of these early issues have, like, so many different scenes. This one, like, the back half of the book is all one scene of, like, a really long fight, which they haven't really been doing.
Yeah, it's pretty rare for this comic as well. Yeah, you're right, one giant long fight scene. Wow.
Because a lot of times we'll be reading this and you'll be on, like, page 7 and you're like, is this comic, like, over? Like, where else could they go? And you're like, oh, don't worry, like, 5 more places.
Yeah. But we have good news, because look at the next cover. Guess who's back? Look who's back, it says. Doc Ock. Again, 2 issues in a row, making him our first 3-time villain for Spider-Man. Not counting J. Jonah Jameson, Flash Thompson. But, you know, that's cool. Unmasked by Dr. Octopus. I think this might be that TV show episode where they unmask him. I'm pretty excited for
it was coming up.
Yeah. And then, gosh, that's 12 issues of Spider-Man. After that, we're going to have to pick another long read. Or maybe, I don't know. Well, we'll see. We'll have to discuss it and figure out what we're doing here for that. But, yeah, next time, Amazing Spider-Man number 12, as well as, we're finally reading Agents of Atlas. And my notes have a typo. I wrote Agents of At Last, because at last we're reading Agents of At Last. We've talked about them a lot on the show. Talk about Agent Jimmy Woo, your boy. And he is, you know, a member of S.H.I.E.L.D. in the movies, but in the comics, what is he? Well, he's in the Agents of Atlas. We'll get into it all. We're going to read the 2006 miniseries. It's a 6-issue miniseries by Jeff Parker and Leonard Kirk. We might also read What If number 9. What if the Avengers had fought during the 50s, which is where the Agents of Atlas got their first appearance, I guess. Maybe not their first appearance in continuity.
As a team. Because Namora's there, I guess Gorilla. And they're all technically characters from when Marvel... Did Marvel buy Atlas Comics, or was that their previous name, Chris?
No, they were Atlas Comics.
Yes.
But yeah, they basically had to write out how some of the 50s stuff that only Namor and Captain America are like, we're keeping these guys, and I guess the original Human Torch, but the rest of it, they sort of had to retcon it away. We did read in Avengers Forever, there's a scene that is like basically right out of that universe of the What If, where those 50s Avengers show up when I think it's like Nixon running for president or something like that against Kennedy. And they're like, who are these guys? Avengers of the 50s? What?
But I don't think Jimmy Woo would be in the movies or Disney Plus series played by Randall Park if not for this Agents of Atlas series by Jeff Parker.
I doubt it. I mean, he was a supporting character in like a number of Marvel comics before this. He was in the Black Widow series we just read for like 1 issue out of 4.
Yeah, I was not expecting to see Jimmy Woo in an 80s comic, I'll tell you that. But I was happy.
Yeah, well, he's the friendliest friend of the show, and we're going to finally give him his due. So, yeah, option to read What If number 9 and Agents of Atlas 2006. And Amazing Spider-Man number 12. So yeah, that's it for this episode here. What else do we got going on? You know, we typically spend some time plugging our other stuff. Vince, I watched your episode on, was there a Wario episode that just came
World?
out?
Yeah, the 3D, the one game where Wario got his own 3D platformer made by Treasure, makers of Gunstar Heroes and Ikaruga. It's not fast paced, but it's a very interesting game. It's one of those games that like I always saw and knew about, and I even was covering GameCube like professionally at the time. Did not ever play it. Didn't bother.
No.
It was an interesting one. Yeah. So that's on our YouTube channel. All my friends are right here. It's called That Was a Game, where we look at games that, yep, that certainly was a game.
So a quick short video told me everything I need to know about that game. And I actually was really excited to play it when I started your video, and by the end I was like, oh, well, what a disappointing game.
Yeah.
And
I saved you some time.
Saved me. Chris, what's going on with your Stupid Minds?
Well, we just released our planned episode on New Mutants a couple weeks ago, or about a week and a half ago, with a friend of Vince and I, Matt Monagle, professional film critic. I think the first one we've ever had on our show. So it was great to have him. Of course, because he has bad taste, still likes New Mutants.
I still need to watch New Mutants before I watch this. I listen to this episode. Like I feel like I need to come in like legit. Your episode's longer than the movie.
Most likely, because the movie. I mean, there's a lot of preamble to the movie because it's. If you know anything about it, and Matt talks about it, it basically went through like several life cycles of development where they didn't know what they were doing with it. Is it a horror movie? Is it an X-Men movie? Is it tying into a Gambit movie?
Whoa, what?
Yeah,
I hadn't heard that yet.
There's a whole. I mean, and I'm on a comic book podcast, so I can tell you guys, the Essex Corporation is like a major spoiler of New Mutants. That it's like, oh no, not the Essex Corporation. Do we all know what that is, right?
I don't know.
That's Sinister. That's Mr.
Yes,
Sinister.
Mr. Sinister.
Oh,
Hey,
so
ding, ding, ding.
Nathaniel Essex.
I can't wait to see the next New Mutant movie when that comes out.
Yeah. They're setting up for Mr. Sinister. Oh boy, does he actually appear? No.
Will he ever appear? No.
They set him up in one of the X-Men James McAvoy
Wasn't
movies.
he at the end of?
Yeah. He's in the stinger scene of Apocalypse. There's like people going through the Weapon X facility, like picking up all the blood samples. And then you see the Essex Corporation or whatever. So they did set it up in that one too.
So set up
I still have never seen that movie. I've never seen Apocalypse. I own it. I've never seen it.
Yeah. Well, and again, I just made fun of Matt Monagle's bad taste. I don't hate it. It's not good, but it's worth a watch.
Okay.
I want to see it. Just never have. I was actually supposed to go see it in theaters. I bought tickets at a drive-through. But we read the week wrong, and instead I showed up to go see X-Men, and I saw Angry Birds instead.
Oh.
So I've always been like, damn it, one day I need to watch this movie. Angry Birds is a good film, by the way.
It's not a great movie, but I do like the theme of like Apocalypse is like a little shit who sucks, and all of his allies are only like friends of convenience who backstab him the moment they can. Like that's a good message. And in our
Apocalypse though.
Yes, in our there I feel like there's good morals there about how people can just bad people can get their just desserts and immediately have everyone abandon them when they're no longer useful.
I liked it because it had purple lasers shooting red lasers.
Yeah,
which was very like, yep,
and,
this is what I wanted.
And it has a scene where it has, I think, Beethoven's Ninth Symphony while missiles are dramatically shot, which is like way more melodramatic than the movie needed.
Okay, great. And Mike, what's going on in your podcast? What's coming up next or recently on Games My Mom Found?
The next episode, that depending on when this goes live, that comes out next week from the time of this recording, will be Robotech Invasion. I was lucky enough to talk with someone that actually developed that game. We kind of went into it and did a very much like interview episode. Came out in 2004 for PS2, Xbox.
Yeah, you've covered a few Robotech games before.
I covered Battle Cry with the same guy, but then he actually worked on Robotech Invasion, so we actually got to dig really deep into that, and that was fun. Just recorded that this morning.
Fair enough. I don't know anything about Robotech.
Just remember Robotech 64 in Nintendo Power being teased for years, and then it never came together.
And that's because Robotech was owned by one company, but because it's 3 different animes that were took together and mashed together when they came to America, there's a lot of rights issues of who owns what. So their solution is just nobody releases nothing. No one makes any money. That's what happened for years. It's very
smart way to do it. Smart way to do it.
And I also just should be releasing an episode about Star Wars Dark Empire. That should also be out the time you hear this.
Very nice, very nice.
That'll be fun to see what your thoughts are. We covered it 5 or 6 years ago at this point, right when Force Awakens came out. So I don't remember what we thought. So.
How long ago was it actually? Yeah, it would have been
2015.
A long time.
Yeah.
Geez.
Wow.
Have you guys been recording that long?
Yeah. We've been going a while. And as always, we like to. Well, of course, thank you, Mike, for being here. But we do end every episode with a little custom that we have. I'll do Vince first so that you know how it works. Vince, I love you.
Love you too, Kia.
Mike, I love you.
All right, sounds good.
Wow. Okay. That's not usually how this goes. But,
Wow.
And Chris, I love you.
Well, Mike, he's clearly knows more about how this works than any of us.
Amazing.
I could have said I know. That's what I should have said.
That's actually pretty. That's pretty. No, Mike, you did perfect. Mikey, thanks for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Mike.
Listeners, thanks for inviting us into your ears. And does anyone say that at the end of podcasts? I'm going to make that my thing. Thanks for inviting us into your ears. We'll see you next time. Bye.